So it was great to have the conversation with Dave, and then he goes to me, "Hey, Gibbo," he goes, "what's going on between you and Fiona?" And I said, "What do you mean? What's going on between me and Fiona?" "Nothing. Why?" And he goes, "She was talking." He says, "About you, today when I was in the restaurant." And I said, "Well, what she was saying?" She's saying that you spent, the day, the evening together yesterday from town, and you just were talking and had coffee, and you walked her home and she kissed you. And I said, "Yeah." I said, that was quite a shock for me, to be honest, And he goes, "Oh, Fiona's a good girl, but just no call, she's a bit of a history on the island, you know what I mean?" And I says, "What do you mean a bit of a history?" "Oh, no, she's been with a lot of guys, a lot of soldiers, British soldiers and stuff." And I was like, fucking hell, and he goes, "But she's a lovely girl," he says, "I'm just letting you know, Carl," he says, "I'm giving you a gypsy's warning." He goes, "If you if you date her," he goes, "you're going to have to deal with Taff and Amanda and Cal." And I says, "Well, I'll not be fucking dealing with anybody." You know what I mean? I says, "Dave, the last thing on my mind is, any type of relationship right now." And he goes, "Carl, that girl's got the hots for you, and he said she was asking me about you, and he says, and what you were like growing up and stuff." And he says, "And I didn't say nothing to her." I says, "That's stuff you have to ask him," you know what I mean? And she says, "Oh, I just want to get a general idea of what he's like." And Dave says, I told her, he goes, "I'll tell you what the type of person Colin is. Colin's a really good guy. He's very loyal. He's very easygoing." She says, Dave said, "Until you cross him." And then he says, "If you cross him," he says, "that's it." He goes, he'll just forget about you, you know what I mean? He said he's very loyal to anybody, that he cares about. And he says, "Fiona, he doesn't take shit." He goes, "He doesn't talk like a nice guy. Colin's very black and white. Colin's a Gemini." And she goes, "Oh yeah, I know, because I'm a Gemini too." And Dave says, "He's black and white. He sees very little grey. And if he gets something in his head, he'll follow through on that. He's very unforgiving, like that, He says, but he's a really, really good guy. He says, Dave says, "I just told her, Cole, the truth." He goes, "That you don't fucking talk sweet. You know what I mean? You don't care fucking about sparing people's feelings. You'll tell the truth, how the truth is. And you don't really give a fuck about, whether they like it or not." And I says, "Well, I appreciate that, Dave. But I had no intentions of, anything towards Fiona, to be quite honest, at that particular time." And she said that she has your number. And I said, "Yeah." She said she comes up every now and then. And he goes to me, "Oh, she's planning to come up in 2 weeks. She's planning to go and see you in 2 weeks." I was like, "What the fuck?" I was just, "Fuck off. What, fuck, no." You know what I mean? That's a bit much, that, for me, you know what I'm saying? So, and I says, "Anyway, I might not be here." I says, "Me and Andy," I says, "in 3 days' time, Dave," I says, "Me and Andy are going to be going to Cozumel, Cancun, and Playa del Carmen." And Dave goes, "You lucky bastard." And he goes, "Oh, fucking alcohol," you know what I mean? And he says, "Why don't you swap me my life for a couple of weeks?" And I says, "Dave, not on your fucking life, mate." And he just burst out laughing. And he was like, "Oh, wanker, fucking cockhead, fucking all this type of stuff, And we just had a really, really good laugh. And he goes, "Right, Cole, I'm going to sign off now." He goes, "I've got to, take care of the boys. I'm going to take them," he says, "down the beach for a little bit, down to Ramones, take him to swim." And I says, "Well, Dave, if you know anybody," I said, "if you see anybody that I give a fuck about," I said, "tell him I said hello." I said, "If you see little Marlon, tell Marlon I said hello," you know what I mean? And I says, "Look, you give me a call," I says, in a couple of days or whenever. Doesn't matter, Dave, day or night. I've got a phone in the bedroom, you know what I mean? And I knew I wasn't going to be sleeping very much. I says, you give me a bell, mate. We'll have a chin wag. I says, doesn't matter if it's 2 or 3 in the morning. You give me a bell, mate. And I says, and we'll pick up where we left off. And Dave was like, "Right, roger that. Signing off. See you later." Then he goes to me, "Call." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Can your phone do this?" Click. put the phone down, fucking twat. So he put the phone down, and I just kind of cracked up laughing, and I felt elated. I felt so happy, I felt like a little kid that I just won a major prize in school, you know what I mean? It was so good to speak to Dave, you know what I mean? And it's hard for people to kind of like wrap their heads around, if you don't have a friendship with somebody like that, with somebody that you would give your life for, and that they would give their life for you. You have absolutely no clue how blessed of a person that you really are in life. You know what I mean? And I was just so happy to, you know, to speak to Dave, and had that big shit-eating fucking Cheshire Cat grin on my face, and went back, did another cup of coffee, and I sat back in front of reruns of Jacques Cousteau, and I think I watched reruns of Jacques Cousteau for a good 6 hours, and what popped up on it? The Great Blue Hole. And I sat there happy as a pig in shit and saying to myself, you've been there, Col. You've dove that, Col. You know what I mean? And I felt so happy with it. And it also showed small glimpses of Key Corker, and also Ambergris Caye, San Pedro, back in the 70s, before it had been built up so much in the 90s. And I got to go back in time and actually see the island, and actually some of the people who are now older, you know, who were 20 years older, actually on that island being interviewed. It was absolutely phenomenal. And it was absolutely, there was a guy, Jerry Jeff Walker, that had been down there, some famous American guy. There was a singer at the minute that he, you know, his name evades me at the minute, and I'll find that out. And he died a couple of years ago. And I think he had a song, a Gringo in Paradise or something like that, and it was quite famous. And I'll find out his name, and I'll say who it was. But there was a rich history of a lot of, you know, American, you know, famous people being down there. So it was great. And I sat back on the couch and suddenly felt very hungry. I checked the clock, and it was, I think it was going on 9 in the evening. And then Andy suddenly appeared, and Andy says to me, are you hungry? And I goes, yeah. And he goes, come on. He goes, we'll go get something to eat. And I was like, okay. And we drove about 10 minutes, and we went to a place called Kenny Rogers Roasters. And this was a franchise, a chicken franchise that was owned by Kenny Rogers, the singer. And you walked in. He took me to this little, like a shopping community with all these little shops. There was chicken pollo, or pollo something, which is chicken in Spanish. Chick-fil-A, Pizza Hut, you know. And it just seemed to be this little shopping centre that had a small mall, Tamayami Mall or something, and all these little shops, shoe shops and clothes shops and little eateries and stuff. We went into a Kenny Rogers Roasters, and it was just all chicken on rotisserie, hundreds of chickens, and you just went up and you picked what you wanted, and you paid at the till, and you took it down and you ate it. It was absolutely brilliant. I'd never been in any place like that there, and the food was amazing, and it was very cheap. I think back in the 90s, a full chicken on a rotisserie with vegetables and salad, and it was like $6. It was absolutely amazing, and I couldn't believe it. And Andy got himself a chicken. I got myself a chicken. I got side salad and a big Coke or something like that. It was absolutely massive, and we sat down, and I couldn't believe that we got that for $6, and Andy paid for it. It was very good of him. And we sat down, and Andy said, I heard you talking. I said, yeah, I was talking to Dave. I said, you know, Dave, give me a ring. And he goes, I said, I gave Dave a ring. And he goes, no problem. He goes, how's things? How's David? I said, yeah, really good, mate. You know, he says, don't worry. He says, we'll be back down there. He goes, in about a month. He says, I've got more orders to take down. He says, I usually get down, he says, to San Pedro. He says, Key Corker, Placencia. He goes, and a few other places down there. He goes to sell scuba gear. We'll be going down there in about a month to 5 weeks. He says, so don't worry about it. It's a regular trip. I said, Andy, that's fantastic. And just knowing that, just hearing that from Andy, really, really made me feel better. You know what I mean? It's not like I was going to be away for like 6 months, 7 months from, you know, San Pedro for, you know, for a long time. It was just going to be a few weeks. It was going to be long weeks. It was going to be, you know, tough weeks, hot weeks. But, you know, that was a small price to pay for what lay ahead of me. And I was just so happy to know that we'd be down again there. And I would see Dave and, you know, bump into Gaz and, you know, hopefully Tim and, you know, and whoever else down there that I really kind of liked. So things were looking up really good already. Me and Andy sat chatting away and stuff. Andy was telling me a little bit of his background. He'd been in Vietnam, and his parents are from Poland, from Warsaw in Poland. They immigrated, you know, before the war, before the Second World War, due to persecution of being Polish Jews, with Hitler and stuff. And so they managed to get out, and Andy's history was absolutely fascinating. And you know, Andy spoke a language that just was very mechanical.